Hi, this is video 6 of the Type 2 Diabetes course for Comfort Eaters. This is all about the simplest way to microfast. If you don't know what microfasting is, you need to go back at least one video, and if you're kind of entering this halfway through, you might want to search for T2D_01. That's the first video. Okay, so we're looking at the simplest way to microfast, and what I'm going to give you now, I'm going to read it to you quickly, but these 3 rules that you'll learn in 15 seconds, if you just went away and did this for 3 or 4 weeks, you would, if you're someone who has just been diagnosed as type 2 diabetes, you've got a relatively sedentary lifestyle, you're eating too much food, if you just follow these 3 rules, at the end of the 3 weeks, for the absolute minimum, you will feel freer in your head, you'll feel more empowered, and you'll probably actually have lost some weight, and it will feel effortless. So the 3 rules that I'm talking about are these. If you're not hungry, don't eat. As soon as you're hungry, eat a slightly smaller portion than before. And if you can't follow rules 1 or 2, then enjoy your food. So these 3 rules are literally the foundation of the whole system. And I need to explain them to you so you don't take them the wrong way. So the first one is, if you're not hungry, don't eat. It's really important that we're not talking about enduring any periods of hunger. This whole system is around waiting until you feel that hunger signal in the pit of your stomach. As soon as you hear that feeling, you kind of it's like almost like a click in the bottom of your stomach. As soon as you kind of feel that, and you will have to tune in to learn when it comes, that is the point when you need to eat straight away. So all the period up to then, you're not hungry. You know, your head says, "Shall I have a biscuit?" You ask yourself, "Are you hungry?" If you're not hungry, don't eat the biscuit. As soon as you're hungry, what you need to do then is have the food almost ready straight away, because the problem is if you leave it too long, if you then go to the shops, buy something and then come back in, what you're likely to do is overeat. So the reason you eat as soon as you're hungry is that it's kind of a 4 out of 10 on your hunger scale, and as soon as you eat, then you're eating still in logical mode before you get into the emotional mode where you're, I want to eat everything in sight. So that's why rule number 2 is, as soon as you feel hungry, eat a smaller portion than you used to. Now, it's important here to say as well, there's absolutely nothing to do with starving. We're not trying to eat tiny portions, it's a slightly smaller portion. And what I want you to focus on doing is reducing definitely the carbohydrate or the really tasty bit of food. If you've got a lasagna, for example, one of those 1 meal lasagnas you can buy one of those, chop it in half, have one for you today or tomorrow, or one for you and your partner, and then shove tons of vegetables on. Okay, it's not about removing any specific food, it's not about taking away the things you love, it's about saying I'm going to have a much smaller portion of the kind of the carbohydrate piece, have a bit more meat if you want, and then add to it the veg, which help keep you full and just reduce those calories. So as soon as you're hungry, you eat a slightly smaller portion. Now the absolute gem is the 3rd rule, which is if you can't follow rules 1 and 2, if you just want to have a binge, if something's happened at work and you're feeling crap, whatever it is, then enjoy your food. And this is the one that really frees your mind, because once you've practiced this a bit, so for me, typically in the week I tend to be more rules 1 and 2, and at the weekend I tend to have a blowout, and then that normally means I miss my breakfast the next day. So once you've done that a couple of weeks and you've learned to get into a rhythm, and you've still managed to lose weight over the month, what that does is it recalibrates your brain. So it teaches it that this skepticism inside your head that you can't diet and have balanced food, you can't have blowouts, it re-educates you, you recalibrate yourself, and this is really exciting because that's where you get to intuitive eating, and that's where you start to better manage your food. Now, the way I want you to think about this process is a bit like imagining Icarus, who can't fly too close to the sun and he can't fly too close to the sea. So think of the sea as too much food and the sun as storing too much fat. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to avoid these 2 states. So if you're thinking of if you're thinking of hunger as the height of Icarus, so the higher you are, the more hungry you are and the more you'll eat, and if you think of right at the bottom, you're really hungry because you haven't eaten, so you're going to overeat. So this is a bit like your kind of how full is your stomach. So what I want you to imagine is we start at the start of the day. Midnight passes, and all through the night your body is burning calories. Now you wake up and you're hungry and you eat food. And what I want you to think about doing is, what we're going to do is we're going to try and sit inside this green box. So this green box is your sweet spot of hunger. So as soon as you're a little bit hungry, you eat, and you eat a slightly smaller portion. Previously you'd have eaten up here, you'd have eaten a bigger portion, and you've been getting closer to the fat storage level. So we're going to eat a slightly smaller portion. You're then going to wait until your hunger drops down below that little window, and then you're going to eat again and again and again, and you just follow that for the day. And then at the end of the day you stop eating, and that's when your body starts using all of those calories slowly over the night, and at some point it should reach a point where it'll actually get to fat burn. And you know what you'll find is that you'll go to bed a tiny bit hungry, and when you get to that state, when you kind of reach that rhythm where at night time you are a little bit hungry, you know, you do that 4 or 5 times a week, and then, you know, over a couple of weeks, if you're measuring your weight, you should notice that it goes down. So one of the things I want to talk about is the paradox of, you know, people wanting to lose weight but be happy. The reality is your body resists losing fat. You know, we've had thousands of years, decades, hundreds of thousands of years, where we've been surviving on not enough food. So our bodies, whenever there's a bit of spare fat, it stores it. So it's miserable to lose weight. And I think one of the problems with a normal diet is we have the misery throughout the day. So it's like daytimes are really hard, and actually the nighttime hasn't been optimized. So what I'd like to suggest to you is, why don't we turn that around and try and make the daytime easier, and let all the work happen when we're asleep and at night. So I want to kind of highlight the differences between kind of the balanced methodology and a normal diet. And it is literally the difference between day and night. So if you think of a normal diet, in the day it feels like it's hard work, that, you know, many times you feel like it's you know, mind misery, it's hard work, you're walking uphill or climbing uphill. And then at night time, actually we haven't optimized our night. So you might have ate late and you might eat early, so you haven't given yourself the biggest fasting window, and that means your body isn't working as hard as it could be at night when you're actually asleep and not feeling it. So balanced is the opposite way around. We try and make the daytime as easy as possible by eating whenever we're hungry, definitely, but having a slightly smaller portion. That's the compromise. But then at night time, when you go to bed and you're a little bit hungry, your hunger will increase over the night, because your body's burning all the available calories that it has in the liver and in the bloodstream, etc., and then it'll tap into that fat store to use a little bit of the fat. So it really does feel a bit like a normal diet is sprinting in the day, it's hard work, whereas what we're trying to do is make it as simple as possible, just like amble along, and then at night time we also are putting in the effort, but it's that we don't feel it, so that the overall outcome should be the same, but the sensation is definitely not the same. So what I'd suggest you should do now is to really focus on deciding when you're going to start. That is the only question you have. I mean, you could start now. I mean, unless you're going to a wedding in a few hours where you're going to have to eat, or you've got a meal out with you, you could now decide, right, I'm not going to eat now until I'm hungry. And from that point forward, you keep trying to do that. You fail, doesn't matter. You have a day off, doesn't matter. A week, weekend, month, it doesn't matter. It's just that intention to learn. I'm going to, you know, learn how to calibrate my hunger. Don't worry too much about which hunger you're feeling, but do keep in mind, for example, if you have an evening meal and half an hour later you feel hungry, well, note that mentally, note where it is in your body, and you know that that's not true hunger. That's something that will come again with experience, but I would suggest that you definitely do that. Then all you need to do is just keep rinsing and repeating. So just keep trying to eat when you're hungry, and hopefully what will happen over a few days, over a week, you'll start to get into a rhythm, and you'll see glimpses of like maybe getting into a bit of a pattern. Maybe you'll change the size of your breakfast a little bit so you're hungry just at the right time for lunch or your snack. You'll start to make these little adjustments, and what you should notice is that one of the great benefits is that when you eat smaller portions, you don't feel as lethargic, so you won't have that dip in the afternoon, and you might also find that in the morning you're really astute because you've had a really good overnight fast, and that's when your brain, you know, so I wake up in the mornings and my brain's like buzzing, really ready to go. Okay, so let's sum up then. So there's just 3 rules to microfasting. It's about turning a miserable diet into a happier lifestyle, smaller changes that you can last a lifetime. It's optimized for reducing fat storage and promoting the fat burning, and it really does make the hard work happen at night. Okay, so the next video is video 7. That's all about failure cycles, and what I mean by that is, you know, yo-yo dieting, you know, this kind of idea that cycles are bad. They're not, they're good. I'll see you on the next one.